Hey guys, how you guys doing? It's me again. This is another expert interview that I'm doing with my main man, Jurie, Jurie Schoeman, an executive here at BSG. And he was when I first joined this great organization, he was one of the first faces that I saw. And when I was doing this, kind of like a self-discovery exercise, I was told by PE, it was a Claire, she said, go and speak to Jurie because he has to be by far the smartest man at BSG. So I'm like, I'm gonna go and find out. So I went and I interviewed and I just spoke to him for about 5 minutes. I'm like, yep, he's smart. He's smart. So Jurie, thank you very much for giving me some time so we can share knowledge and insights. And the people watching this, they just want to become better, whether it is in consulting, entrepreneurship, better at home,
Sure.
whatever the case may be. But we're just going to be focusing on more professional and just being kind of an expert. If you could just introduce yourself and share
Yeah,
your
sure.
story with your people.
Thanks, Njibula. Hi, everybody. Nice to meet you. My name is Jurie Schoeman. I have been a consultant for my whole career, which is it's almost been 16 years as a consultant now.
See, 16.
In terms of where I've come from, I grew up in a town called Potchefstroom. I went to after finishing school, I decided to study a BSc in maths, applied maths, and statistics.
Yeah.
At UCT, mainly because I hadn't spent enough time understanding the career options and study choices that were fully available to me. So it's just step one is to make sure that you are as informed as possible around the options that exist. So I got to UCT,
Yeah.
I started doing MAM 100,
Mhm.
Stats 100, ComSci 1,
Mhm.
compiling C++ code for hours in the labs, and I realized that wasn't really my strength, although I did enjoy it. I then found out about two things in my first year at varsity. I found out about the business science degree and I found out about information systems.
Mhm.
The reason I studied computer science is because I love technology and I love the opportunity to use technology to make the world a better place. And not to say that as like some kind of corny line, but I do think that technology does allow us to improve the quality of our lives and society.
Yeah. We can't argue with that at all.
But then finding out about information systems, there was a lot more about how you apply the technology rather than how you write the code or deal with the server and all the kind of technical stuff in the background. So I did a business science degree, IS and economics in the end, 4 years at UCT. I started working for a business intelligence consultancy in Cape Town straight after varsity. I was there for 6 months. I then joined Accenture and I moved up to Joburg. I was at Accenture for just under 7 years. Really enjoyed my time there, worked with great people, did some really good projects. And a very good friend of mine was at BSG, a guy called Ian Munro. We were at varsity together, we were in res together.
Yeah.
My twin brother dated his sister. So we knew each other really well. But I knew he was at BSG, but I'd never really understood what BSG was doing at the time and what they were involved in. And one day we got talking about it and I thought, what I really want to do is, I've learned so much at Accenture, I want to find an environment where I can take what I've learned and I can be involved as a leader in a business. Because Accenture is a great organization, but it's a great global organization. I think there are like 300,000 people there.
300,000.
There's some guy in Spain who sets the strategy for South Africa and that's what you follow. Every single method that you use there has been defined somewhere else and is given to you. And we all have different preferences. If you like that certainty and structure and being able to access a toolkit from the cupboard, it's a great environment. If you want to build a cupboard yourself, and be involved in deciding which tools you should have, there's BSG is that kind of environment.
Yeah.
And I thought the ability to play a leading role, and I had a leadership role, but not an executive role when I joined BSG, but I knew the opportunity would exist. And I think that's really important as a lesson in life, is identify what opportunities you believe exist, and if you're passionate about them, you'll make them happen. I've been at BSG for almost 9 years now.
Jeez.
I set up the program management capability in the first year I was here, and I ran a program at Barclays that had 13 BSG people on it, which was the biggest BSG engagement at the time.
It's quite small nowadays.
Quite small now, exactly. I then ran the Joburg operations for our consulting team for about 3 or 4 years, which meant that I was responsible for our biggest revenue line and most of our people, which sounds nice if you measure yourself in terms of status or power.
Yeah.
But actually the most important thing I learned out of that is that that wasn't my strength. Operational leadership was not something that it was a great experience to learn from, but it wasn't something that made me excited every day.
So what was the thing that made you excited every single day? Get up in the morning.
So what gets me really excited and did at the time and continues to, is to be involved in shaping the direction we take as an organization. Being able to have some latitude around exploring opportunities and saying there's a really interesting insight, how do we use that in our business to do something different? That's what excites me all the time, and being able to try something out, whether it succeeds or fails. The fact that you can test something out with a group of people with a really open mind and appreciate what you've learned out of it is a positive result, no matter what actually happens with the experiment itself.
So kind of fail fast, learn from it, and just become better.
Yeah, all the theories around it, they are written about for a reason because they work.
Oh, okay.
But it's again, it's a learning environment. I think if you're creating an opportunity to learn, you will benefit from it. And there's a cliche that says you learn the most in the challenging times, and it's exactly right.
That's very true.
It's difficult, and that's the challenge. So I think if you're going to do that, you've got to have some kind of intrinsic motivation that drives you. Because to leave something that's a safe environment where you know what's going on, but you're not learning, to get into that learning space, you have to do something uncomfortable. So while it's beneficial, it's difficult. So there has to be a strong driver for it. And maybe then what's really important is to work out what motivates you, what drives you.
See, that's some good advice for us up and coming youth, especially for me, because I'm not even nearly as experienced as you are. Hence, we would like to learn from you. So just I just want to talk about, you're quite active on LinkedIn, sharing articles, and like you say that you like shaping strategies, and you like to take the organization in a certain strategic direction. For example, right now we've got the buzzwords, they call them. I don't know why I did this, but the buzzwords of being customer-centric and fact-based decision making. If you could just for like a minute each, if possible, to talk about what it means to be customer-centric and what it means to be fact-based and how we can use them.
Sure. So they're not unique concepts. They're not new ideas. It's always good to have a focus from a strategy perspective and something that people can remember easily. And it's almost like I'm sure it's Guy Kawasaki said that you should have a mantra, something that you can repeat and embed. So we want people to trust us to be customer-centric and fact-based. What that means is we want people to identify us as the people, when we approach any change, the first thing we say is, who's the customer here? What does that customer need? How do we deliver that need for the customer through the solution? Because normally the first question is, what do you want as a business? What's your order? And as long as we fulfill that, you pay us fees for our project, and we continue to be a profitable business. But that actually doesn't solve the main question. The main question is, no matter what business you're in, there's a customer for what you do. And it's about making sure that customer's needs are being met. The difficult thing is that customers don't always know what they need. So it's not about asking them also what they need. It's about observing them. It's about finding data points and facts that allow you to really assess and understand what they need. Customers, like all of us, we blink it by our own perspective and our own experience. So if you ask me what I want, I'll tell you a better version of what I've currently got. I won't tell you the transformational, completely different thing. So the customer-centric part is saying any change that we go through, our first point is to identify who the customer is and to use the tools and methods as part of how we do any business change that defines their customer construct and delivers on it. The fact-based part of it is to say, the world has limited resources. We've got to make sure that those resources are spent on the things that we think are most viable and most effective. Now, if you have to make a whole lot of assumptions, it's like an investment decision. A high-risk investment decision based on a whole lot of assumptions could very easily be a failure.
Very true.
And we have limited resources to invest. So let's gather the facts so we make informed decisions about where we invest any of our resources as humankind. And that is ultimately what helps us to create positive change for society. If we've got to keep taking bets around what we think is the best thing to do, we can't make a lot of bets, and a lot of them aren't going to pay out.
And that's not a sustainable practice at the end of the day.
Absolutely. So being fact-based is saying, what are the data points available to me? How do I access those, and how do I reduce assumptions and make effective decisions wherever possible? And if I'm not making an effective decision, let's acknowledge that and let's test it out as quickly as possible. So we decide whether our assumption is in fact true, or if it's false, what do we do differently? Or what do we stop doing?
Cool. And that's when that was made obvious, because sometimes the obvious is not obvious until you make it obvious. When that was made obvious, I started doing my own research, and I found like, actually, wow, This is actually important, because when you make an assumption and then the assumption turns out not to be true, you're in a whole lot of trouble. Especially if you're a large organization servicing a lot of customers, and you introduce a new product to the market or a service that they actually don't want, and then you invest all these resources, then you're not really a service-minded organization.
And sorry, there are lots of examples of organizations that have failed, that have launched products that have been dismal failures.
Can you give an example?
Well, one of the large banks in South Africa launched a business banking credit card 2 years ago.
Yeah.
They designed it themselves. They spent 6 months building it. It was by far the greatest product in the market. Offered flexibility from a cash flow perspective, whether you needed to invest or save or access funds. It beat every single other business credit card in the market by probably 4 or 5 times the functionality available. They launched a whole media campaign around it, and the first month they had 2 customers take up the card. And both of them, the only function they used was to go and draw money out of the ATM using the card.
Yes.
And they'd fundamentally failed to include the customer in that process. They hadn't spent time with business saying, as a business, what is it that you actually need. They just thought, we'll be the smartest guys in the world and we'll create this fantastic solution that at the end of the day nobody wants.
Well, you see. So focus on the customer. Customer is king and data is the crown. Someone wrote that. I can't remember from where. So on that note of customer centricity and being fact based, you are very active on LinkedIn.
Yes.
You produce a lot of content. And when I picked up this book, Ready to be a Thought Leader by Dennis Brousseau, with a foreword by Guy Kawasaki, who's one of your fans, or you're his fan.
I'm one of his fans.
You're one of his fans. So I started picking up this book because I love knowledge, and a lot of people out there, they do as well. And many people are confused about being a thought leader. Could you just share your insights on, because the book says to be a thought leader, people think being a thought leader is something that's really grand and hard to do, but all it really is doing is like you pick a topic and you provide your own insights and thoughts into it. That's it. So what is your take on being a thought leader, and just some tips on the younger people out there, how they can start working towards being thought leaders?
Sure. Like my own thoughts are, like, I've never intended to be a thought leader. I mean, I wouldn't regard myself as a thought leader, but it's not something I've consciously decided to pursue. One of the reasons why I love LinkedIn is it comes back to being fact-based and being customer-centric. You know, people share information about themselves on social media because they want you to understand them better.
Yeah, that's true.
It's not stalking. It's research. It's being well prepared, and
I'm going to use that line next time a girl says, "You've viewed my profile so many times." No, I was researching.
But you know, that's what it is. People make their in some cases they unintentionally make the information available, but on LinkedIn it's a business social media platform. Somebody tells you about themselves because they want people who share those same beliefs or ideas or thoughts to interact with them. I think the thought leader part is, I think you have to embrace being willing to learn, and you have to embrace being willing to teach. And if those things are important to you, and it comes back to what that topic is. If it's something you're passionate about, if you want to learn more about it and you want to share that learning with others, you are a thought leader.
That's true.
You might be a thought leader with 2 people, or you might be a thought leader with 1 million people, like Guy Kawasaki.
This guy,
or Mr. Brousseau. Mr. Brousseau.
Dennis Brousseau,
But I think firstly do it for the right reasons. So don't say my goal is to be a thought leader. I want the status that goes along with being a thought leader. It's about, I want to authentically and genuinely develop my knowledge about a topic, and I want to share that topic with others. So find something that you're passionate about. Then learn as much as possible about it. You might learn in the process you don't actually like it. then you find something else.
Is that by experience?
But the world needs to become a smarter place. So it's collaborating. I think we've got values as an organisation. I think collaboration is most important because I don't think in any industry there's very seldom an opportunity where people are justified in competing. We should be collaborating,
right? Instead of
we shouldn't be fighting about the same pie. We should be working together to make a bigger pie.
That's a nice one. Give me some. Yes.
And as a thought leader, we help to create the knowledge and understanding and wisdom to do this.
I see. Collaborate. Collaboration is key. That's from Jurie. And then also, funny enough, when I was reading this book, I also thought about you as well. See, as young people, just doing some research out there, we have what my dad calls kangaroo mentality, or kangaroo syndrome, jumping from one job to another job, one industry to another industry. But Douglas Kruger, in his book Own Your Industry, he notes, there was also a talk about it. He says that as if you're seen as regarded as an expert and not an amateur on something, then you are you're held in high regard and are paid up to 10 times more than someone who's not regarded as an expert. And the only way you can become an expert is someone who has spent a lot of time, research, and has made many mistakes in a small niche or in a certain area. And also when you look at Malcolm Gladwell's 10,000 hours rule, means he spent like about maximum like 10 years in one kind of field. And you have been a consultant for over 16, we can kind of infer that you should be an expert in consulting and gathering knowledge and setting strategic objectives. What is the importance that you can give to the young people out there, so whether they're starting out or they're 3, 4, maybe even 5 years into the career, the importance of picking a niche and then actually owning that niche? What's the importance of that?
It's a great question. I mean, in my experience, I've ended up in a position where I've spent my entire working career in consulting.
Yeah.
I've consulted in different industries, but I've only ever had 3 jobs, and the first one was 6 months, so it doesn't really count. Okay, so it's pretty much
you're starting out, you were just
2 jobs.
Yeah.
So probably my area of expertise is probably the consulting industry and being in a consulting organization. Certainly if I reflect on my experiences, I always wanted to be an expert in something. When I first started out, I wanted to be an expert in supply chain management.
Okay.
I love the idea of optimizing something. You do all those models, and I remember in stats and applied maths around the critical path and how you reduce it to its bare minimum.
Yeah.
That always used to be, it was kind of a version of problem solving. And then I entered the large consulting organization, and you can have as many preferences as you like, but you go where somebody needs somebody with your skill and experience.
Yeah, that's true.
I think so I've never actually worked in supply chain management, and it doesn't matter. Because I found other things that I'm passionate about. So I'd say the first step is to gain enough frames of reference so you can work out what you really are passionate about.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
And you can be passionate about anything, but at the end of the day, you've got to be passionate about something you can be successful at.
Yeah, that's.
I can be passionate about being a basketball player, but I'm not going to play in the NBA. So I think you've got to give yourself an opportunity to be exposed to different environments and to learn things, and then to find something that excites you and that you're passionate about, and that you can be successful in.
Yeah.
And so maybe a good thing to do around that is that there are a lot of self-assessment tools you can go through that give you a better sense of who you are as a person and what your preferences are. Do you like to lead or do you like to follow? Do you like to be a visionary or do you like to get involved in action and getting things done? How do you learn? Learning styles is a great thing.
Yeah.
Are you an activist? Do you learn by doing things?
Are you a theorist?
Are you a theorist? Do you like to read the books? Are you reflected? Do you like to observe, think deeply about it?
Are you a pragmatist? Yeah.
And there are different roles where those things will give you more opportunity to learn in the way that you're most comfortable.
Yeah.
And then when you do have something you're passionate about, I think the kangaroo syndrome is you've got to have enough resilience to get through the difficult times.
Yeah.
Because nothing's easy all the time, and if it was, you wouldn't want to do it.
No.
That's why the computer game, the levels keep getting harder.
Yeah, that's true.
But that's life. You're going to do something for the rest of your life. You want to be continually challenged. That challenge has to be at a realistic level. So you have to be succeeding while you're failing and learning.
Yeah.
And I think you've got to give yourself enough opportunities to work out what it is that you're really passionate about, that you can be effective at, and then stick to it.
Yeah, you see, be an expert.
Be an expert. I mean, the 10,000 hours.
Yeah.
So that's between 5 and 10 years of your life.
Yeah, 5.
Dedicated to something fairly fully.
Yeah, and then you become an expert.
And if you're jumping around every 2 or 3 years,
then
you're getting halfway there, or a third of the way there.
And you're not you don't know the importance of kind of finishing, which is what all experts know how to do.
Yeah.
The kind of the last point I wanted to talk about is the importance of being able to speak in public. So when I first joined, you were the guy at the team meetings, the forums. I was like, yeah, the resident speaker here. So if you were to what is your importance on being able, even though it's a fear of yours, not to say it's a fear of yours, like people fear it because it is the number one feared skill, even above death, which means if you had a funeral, you'd rather be in the coffin than the person giving the eulogy. I find that quite interesting. What is the importance of being able to stand up and speak up in, whether it's a one-on-one, one-on-two, or one-to-many situation, just so that your voice can be heard? What is the importance of, even if getting the skills basically right?
It's critically important. It's fundamentally important. But it's not something that I understood to be that important when I was starting out my career. I mean, I can tell you in the first 5 years that I worked in my career, I think I had 2 opportunities where I spoke publicly around things. The first was to talk through a new expense claim process to 20 people in my team, and it scared the hell out of me. And the second time was to be the best man at my twin brother's wedding.
Oh, okay.
And both those opportunities I was extremely anxious and fearful about, because I hadn't built the skills to feel comfortable speaking in public. At BSG, throughout my time at BSG, I've had opportunities to do that. And I believe through having more opportunities, I've become more effective and entirely comfortable with that process. But it's like the uncomfortable change in learning we spoke about earlier. In order to master the difficult skill, you've got to go through the uncomfortable steps of giving yourself the opportunity to learn and do it. So there's no doubt, there's no question that being able to present yourself and your thoughts in a confident and clear manner to others is fundamentally important to be successful in your career. So like I said, when I was growing up, when I started my career, that it wasn't something that had been made clear to me that you should really do this really well. My wife, on the other hand, her parents made her do Toastmasters from when she was in Standard 1, I think. And she is a completely confident and supremely effective public speaker.
Toastmasters is good for you.
And I wish... Toastmasters... sorry, I said debating. With Toastmasters.
You said Toastmasters.
Toastmasters, And then she did debating, as all advised to. I mean, I would... my kids are going to start Toastmasters. The junior Toastmasters. The winners you can...
Dad, can I get a mic? Join Toastmasters.
And then present your case for getting it back to me. And the best way to do it is find an audience, find somebody that you can comfortably engage with, who you can also trust to give you the harsh but necessary feedback to improve. You don't want people to go like, oh, that's great, well done.
You don't
when
go
it
that
isn't.
way.
Because that's not helpful to anybody. It's not helpful to your growth. So it's fundamentally important. Create the opportunities to practice, but also the more you can learn about it in a guided environment, like Toastmasters or some other public speaking community, will set you up for success.
Oh, definitely. That's it from Jurie Schoeman, though. So Jurie, thank you very much for your time. Just any last words for the people watching this interview.
So I don't know who you guys are. I'd love to meet you though. So please connect with me on LinkedIn. There are a lot of things that I'm interested in that I've shared on my profile. If you're interested in those things, please share insights with me. Let's get together to learn more about things.
Definitely.
Jurie, I think this is a fantastic initiative you've undertaken.
Yes.
And I think you need to share some of those books with me.
I will share them. So at the end of this video, in the description, I'll put your LinkedIn profile and all that. So so that's it from Jurie Schoeman, and guys, I wish for you to go and learn as much as possible, be successful, and just never give up, because we know that we've got what it takes to make the success of your life. See ya.
Be the difference. Cheers, guys.